Welcome to Rev Shots, your weekly dose of quick hit wisdom, where we tackle the most pressing topics of the day for ourselves and our revenue teams. Our show features expert guests with decades of experience. We delve into what works and why, sharing tools to be unapologetically successful, from making our number to delighting our clients. If you're ready to boost your knowledge in under 30 minutes on a weekly basis, tune in. Follow me on LinkedIn or join our mailing list to stay updated on our latest features. Hello, everybody. I know, right? It's good music. I think
it's jamming. It's got a good vibe.
Right?
I like it. Yeah.
I think the more we tell ourselves something is easy and okay, the better off we are. So a huge fan of manifestation mindset. So, all right, everybody, I am your host, Dion Major. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are on episode 70 of Rev Shots, believe it or not. I know. So we're in our second year. And by now you all know the purpose of Rev Shots is to bring credible resources and thoughts and ideas, because there's no way we can think of everything on our own. And quite frankly, we're not supposed to. So our whole goal in this show and the purpose of the show is to bring you ideas and thought leaders and thoughts from leaders who have at least a decade of experience and have been there, done that. We're not talking theory, we're talking actuality. So Coach K, thank you for joining us today. And I am so happy our paths have crossed. How are you today?
Me too. I'm nothing but a fan of you and everything you do, and just honored and privileged to be here. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And quick background that I was doing a little bit of research before we started.
Oh, no.
And this morning, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit about you because your background is amazing. I'm going to ask you to add a little color commentary, and then we're going to slide right
in. Bring it on. Let's do it.
Question we ask everybody. All right. So your background, you are the head of go-to-market growth at Momentum. You are also the CEO and chief AI nerd at Go-to-Market AI Academy. I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yes.
And you host a podcast called Go-to-Market AI Podcast, which I absolutely love because so many people just start deploying stuff, whether it's AI or anything else, without a strategy and wonder why it doesn't work, myself included, right? We need to ready, aim, fire, not the other way around. You're also the co-host of the State of Sales Enablement and love all of that. And you're also part of Go-to-Market Buddy. So when do you sleep?
It's a very good question. There's definitely a lot going on. I'm not sure what else you want to add besides my passion drives me. Like I get up at 4 or 5 in the morning to work out, do stuff, and I do that though because literally it's the only time I have to myself to get stuff done. And people always ask me, like, do you drink coffee? I'm not a coffee drinker. I literally love what I do so much. I geek out on it. So I just love to get up and work. So it's fun.
I know. Yeah, I love that. So I do drink coffee, but I am also up at that 4 or 5 hour time frame because it's the most beautiful part of the day for me. So
awesome. Yeah. And no shame. If anyone sleeps in, no shame, because I was asleep in there for a few times. No shame there. So,
yeah, my sister and a lot of my colleagues are on the opposite side, right? Where they're the night owl side. So I think it's just a matter of what works best for you. So again, thank you for joining us. And so excited to dive in, given your background of experience and just the perspective and the lens that you're looking at things through. Huge fan of Momentum. And again, all things going on here. So let's dive in. And the question I ask everybody is, what is the number one topic you're hearing right now? And what are people doing to address it? Two-part question.
Oh man, well, it's a two-part answer to the two-part question about that. So
100%.
I hear things from the Momentum angle, and I hear things from the academy and outside of Momentum, the world.
Yeah.
Obviously, inside of Momentum is really about both how large and medium businesses are. How do we actually get value out of AI? Because there's a lot of promises. But there's very few who can actually deliver. And I don't mean that in a diss to any technology. It's more of like, where is the big bump in revenue growth or cost reduction or something like that that's not eliminating humans? Like, where is the part of AI that can actually amplify us? That's the question I hear a lot of, like, where is it? Like, we've had this now for 2 years. What's the actual results? And the nice thing is with Momentum, we can show that, but that same question is being asked in other places. And then the other side is, outside of Momentum, what I'm hearing is a theme in other conversations or webinars is it feels like there's been this swing on the pendulum between where do we need AI? Where do we not? Where's the human come in? Where do we not? And it keeps going back and forth because I don't think we know yet where we like AI and where we don't, as both
Right.
as buyers and then as users. Like
Yep.
I know where I like AI, but the AI every week changes, and I have to reframe how I think about it and reframe the whole thing. So
Yeah.
it becomes extremely overwhelming, and that's kind of the thing I'm hearing is like, where do I even start? I don't even know where to begin with this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point too. And I love the fact that you're bringing those different perspectives, right? Because I think that's important at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. So one of the things I want to talk with you about, I have so many questions.
Yeah.
I think it's easy, right? So I've been in tech for a long time, and there's always this, oh, it's the end of the world, or there's something new. And I think there's always this fear that comes with it, right? If you think of Moore's law and things of that nature, I can get all of that, right? There's a myriad of emotions. But I think whenever there's something new, especially like AI, and it's like, oh my gosh, your job is at risk, and everything is like, it's just this chicken little, the sky is falling.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that we're a leader and it's our job to take the temperature down. We serve as the thermometer. And so the example I give to everybody is, when electricity came around, people who were lighting the light post lamps manually probably felt the same way. What
Right.
we encourage people to think about all the jobs now that are needed to support the electrical infrastructure we have. So talk a little bit about that transition, right? Of let's not be afraid of AI. And what got me going on that is you said things are changing so quickly, I need to reframe it. So how are you, with your background and experience, reframing it so we're not afraid of this new technology and we are reframing it to learn how to harness the power appropriately, because that's the goal.
Yeah. It's a really good question that hopefully I can give some answers. It's calming. I think we need to be real and understand that AI will disrupt jobs. But
100%.
if we think that this is a new thing, it's not. Like I'm a big fan of older movies, and there's one that's older movie. It's with Doris Day, I think. Anyways, it's an old movie where it shows this switchboard of all these women doing switchboard of phones. So you just switch and go like this, click, 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 and that was a job forever. And those are no more. But that wasn't disrupted by AI. It was disrupted by technology. I think the difference though with AI is that it's displacing the non-physical thing. It's displacing the brain, and that's where people get uncomfortable because you're like thinking, well, if this can think, then what is my value as a human? So my answer to that is, if in the world where someone has, or everyone I should say, has access to some of the most powerful tools we've ever seen for $20 a month, then the differentiator is you. That's the difference, because the power is different. It's like electricity. How electricity gets used is based on whoever's wielding that power.
Yeah.
So the more we get more progress and the more the AI gets out there, the uniqueness and the moat is the human. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because how I prompt, how I apply, like I was listening to a YC Accommodator podcast about this, and I've been like listening to them and then Andrew Ying and a bunch of other people, and they keep saying the same thing, which is essentially the people who are winning in startups who are like disrupting the space are those who are able to both use cursor or some sort of coding thing. They have a little bit of expertise, but then they deep dive into a domain to really make the technology work for a salesperson of tractors in Kansas, right? Whereas the classic example is using like a massive Salesforce. It's like you adjust to us. Like we'll make a Salesforce instance, you have to adjust to us, versus the new world, which is we're going to adjust to you. And someone who's willing to either be that domain expert or to invest the time to understand what the domain experts need or require, that deep integration, they can use the power of AI in that way. That'll make them unstoppable. So that human who's able to go to another human and say, how can I put AI in your workflow to make it as easy as possible, is going to blast anybody else with any other AI tech because they understand the problem better than anybody else. Does that make sense? So for anyone listening, and this is why I've been preaching for 2.5 years now, that enablement people should be on AI, is because they're one of the few spots in the org that understands the entire customer journey. So we should be the ones who are able to wield that power deeply within the team so that it can reduce friction, have revenue, and do what enablement's supposed to be doing from the beginning anyways. So, helpful?
Yes, there was so much ground you just covered, right? And I love all of that. And so talk a little bit about, we're going to start with the end there. So talk a little bit about kind of what you just said of enablement, actually true enablement, not training, but true enablement, how that works, and talk a little bit about the what momentum is bringing to the table, because and here's why I'm asking is I 100% agree with you on that. And I've been doing skills matrices with organizations for as long as I can remember, because it's about getting a very objective viewpoint for our team. I don't care what team it is, any go-to-market team, any team in general. And it's about creating lines on the road, concrete lines on the road, systems and processes that allow our go-to-market teams, especially our sales teams and our revenue teams, our customer-facing teams, to really harmonize the qualitative and quantitative. And I feel like finally technology is there that can actually do that, can take our skills matrix, and instead of some sales manager going to our team and saying, you just need to ask more questions, there's thought process behind it, right? So talk a little bit about that journey, like enablement, true enablement, and kind of how momentum is addressing that point that you talked about.
Yeah, so this requires a little bit of a story. The short version is, so I run with Vanessa Metcalf what's called RISE, which is Research and Insight-Based Strategic Enablement, where we do research on this stuff, And so we did a research project last year, which we're literally in the middle of the peer review, and going to be published, which talks about how do sales leaders and then enablement perceive what enablement's supposed to be doing. And so it's fascinating to see the difference between those two dichotomies. And which perception of enablement has a better influence on impact. So I'm gonna put that there as a second because I'm gonna come back to it. My opinion is take out AI. My job as a revenue enablement leader, and it always has been, and I've learned this through the years of failing, is that I'm supposed to do three things. Number one is to make the buyer experience as good as it can be. Two is to have reducing friction. So make sure that the seller doesn't have friction in the way of actually getting the job done, of being with the customer and creating a good buyer experience. And then three is that as a result of those two, we have revenue or reduced churn or whatever the outcome is we're looking for. And if we're not experiencing that, then you're not truly enabling, you're just causing busy work, and that's not enabling anybody. So I always compare it to kind of have another view. I always compare enablement to the Hunger Games, which just bear with me for a second. If the CRO is the emperor, my opinion is enablement should be, not that they are, but they should be the game maker, which means they understand the entire field, they're controlling the temperature, the animals, that not we're trying to kill anybody, but the environment, so that the people in the place can be successful instead of trying to kill you. So, but the problem is that most people don't have that leadership or ability. So number one is the structure of enablement in general is not given that authority to have that, which I think is a mistake. And number two, the people who then in those seats need to be talented enough to be able to understand, how do I affect this environment as a game maker, quote unquote enablement, to let people to win, and that to me is like AI fits right in line with that, because that means I can look at things like momentum and I can say, okay, let's look at all the tasks that people have to do during the day. There's micro tasks that take 10 minutes here, 20 minutes here, 30 minutes here, that then ends up that they only have 20% selling time, and the other 80% is spent on internal meetings and filling in CRM and all this other crap, right? So I hope this isn't too much, but I'm going to segue now. So number one, enablement should not be just a training org, just a content org. And I always tell people, and I come from the training world, I'm like, if you think the answer to this problem is training, it's wrong 90% of the time, right? It's not training. In fact, most of the time it's something different. But the easiest way to do it, because it's visual to leaders, is let's do a group training and then I'm doing my job. But then none of the numbers actually change, So I think it's shifting what you think enablement is. With momentum, our belief is that the most important and strategic and crucial information you have at your fingertips is in the conversations and interactions you have every single day. The challenge is that the human is the problem, and I don't mean that in an offensive way, but what we're expecting from the human is the issue. We're expecting them to be the data enterer. We're expecting them to be the data deliverer. So if I, as a marketer, enablement person, wanted to go to a top rep to understand like how are you winning deals in a good way, which is my job, I have to take their time, go talk to them, figure out what's going on, go watch another conversation intelligence tool call, put it together the methodology. And I'm taking time as the data consumer and then deliverer of data to the team to say, here's what the top rep is doing. With momentum, it's all done for me. It's done.
Right.
It listens to every call, sucks out the data. It can measure the call and give me the things I need to. It can signal me as an enablement person saying, hey, this person did a kick A job. This person did not very good. And they can send that to me and the manager. Like it does all these things for me to where I can spend the time when I'm telling it out, which is being the human who's helping the other human understand other humans.
Right.
Instead of saying, I gotta go watch these calls and do this stuff. And like it's just a lot of wasted time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot of other tools do it, but momentum I'm exceptionally passionate about because I'm here as both an employee, but I was a customer before and I experienced it as a leader, you know. So there you go.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. And I think also what I hear you talking about is how are we, a couple of things, right? Is how are we getting rid of the minutia and allowing people to truly focus the 80-20 rule on their role?
Yeah.
Number one. Two, I think I also hear the how, right? And I think I've been doing what I've been doing for 10 plus years. I remember going to market, and the aha moment for me was my clients don't need me to tell them things they can find on Google. What they really needed was help synthesizing the data, the thought patterns, the dots on the board, and figuring out what good looked like moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. That's also what I hear you saying is we get it. I think our brains can process the what and sometimes the why if it's delivered well. I think what I hear you talking about is we're really focusing in on how do I practice what works in order to get better.
Yeah.
Am I thinking about it the right way?
Yeah. So regardless if you have let's just think about it from the point of view of like what most enablement people fall into, which is a very reactive, hey, I need a deck for this, hey, I need a thing for this, hey, I need whatever this thing is, becomes a firefighting function, which there always will be aspects of that because things happen, right? But what a good exercise is even if you don't have AI, is sitting down with your 2 or 3 reps at a time and saying, I need a half hour. And all I want you to tell me is what is taking your time, what's getting in the way.
Right.
If all you did was that all the time and fix it, you would make a huge difference. You know, just doing that alone. The nice thing is that there's AI tech, and even just using a ChatGPT instance, you can make some things very easy with using the basic function tools we have that's not team-based. I mean, technically there's teams with ChatGPT, but you understand, it's like you don't have to buy a team license for it. Right? So it's just being willing to change how you think about it, and also think that how can I create a revenue generating organization that's focused on this by reducing friction and then understanding what actually moves the dial. And I'm going to segue, if you're okay to do it with it one more time. It kind of goes along with like Kunal Panji and myself in Sales Velocity Labs. He owns Sales Velocity Labs. And so we talk about this a lot, where we think that it comes down to saying, what's the revenue goals? What's the big time goals? Like adding revenue by 50% by the end of the year. Working backwards and looking at what's the sales velocity. And based on that, to go from where we are now to where we want to go, sales velocity has to change as a number. So the question is, of those 4 levers of average deal size, win ratio, sales cycle, and number of opportunities, which one's the one that we think as a leadership team can be effective? Because enablement's not the only one who can change the number of opportunities. It could be a marketing thing or a product launch or something like that. But there are things enablement can do, is saying, okay, what are the skills? What's the process? What's the friction that's in the way of like sales cycle? Like let's eliminate everything we can from sales cycle lag to get that as fast as possible. So the only thing we're really waiting on is the customer, and we're doing everything we can do. So our internal process is not the reason why we're slowing down, right? It's little things like that. And then once you have that, then the enablement team is focused on saying our goal is to get sales cycle from 90 days to 80. And that alone makes a big difference. Or it's getting win ratio from 25% to 27%, which is a big deal for a big org,
Yes. Yes.
And once you have that, then you can say, okay, what are those competencies? And the whole for most people has been, how can I at mass or at scale measure the behavioral metrics to see what the good people are doing, what the talent people are doing based on a metric or competencies that match to revenue.
Right.
And it's hard to do that in scale. You have to have people take surveys, and if you have a quarter and no one has time for it, with momentum, you can do it on every single call for you and like deliver for you. Like it's all done.
Right.
So now I have the behavioral metrics. I can look at the Salesforce data, behavioral metrics for momentum, and I can look at the activity metrics from like an outreach or whatever that case is, and I have this full complete picture, and I can say these top 5 reps have the top 5 revenue, and by the way, they're also better at these 3 competencies. Why maybe I should focus my enablement program on these 3 competencies because there's a correlation, and we've never had that ability before. So I love the AI world because now it gives me a focus of like where I should focus the energy for enablement. So I can move the dial on things that actually move the dial, and I can tag myself as an enablement person to the revenue generating stuff, not just hey, I did a training.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I love all of that, Coach K. I think that's so important and impactful. So given everything that we have talked about, and we've covered a lot of ground in a very short amount of time, right? Yeah. Because we're talking about AI as a tool, as a supplement, and using it appropriately, all the way down to begin with the end in mind, and then going down to skills, competency. Right? I think everything we just talked about is probably a 12-year plan. Right. And people don't like that either. I remember, every time I talk with folks and they were, my whole thing is change management, spinning up teams. And I go, it's a 3-year journey, because not only are you creating a team, you're creating something that new, which you need to do an incremental sprint improvements. And then, oh, by the way, we're changing behavior. Right. And I remember so many executives would look at me and they go, Dion, I don't have 3 years. And I'm like, then I don't know what to tell you. But you can break it down into smaller chunks than that. Right. Yeah. But again, everything we're talking about here, like this is a program, and it's not going to be fast, but it will be quick. So where do you recommend people start? What are like the top 3 things they should think about as they're starting this journey, or maybe they're already in it? Kind of what's the check, right, that they need to be thinking about just to really lay the foundation for success?
For enablement specifically, or with AI, or both?
I think for enablement using AI. Let's stay there.
Yeah. I think it's things that actually have nothing to do with AI. It's having a mindset shift around your job is not simply to create content, or it's not just to do training. And the hard part is that some people listening to this are probably saying, yes, I love that, but I can't because my job literally is to create content or training, So it's having that conversation with your leaders and saying, I want to not necessarily redefine the role, but redefine expectations of what you're expecting to make sure that we're actually delivering results and adding revenue, because there's no sales leader in the world that's going to say, no, I don't want you to add more revenue.
Correct.
So if you're able to have that conversation and say, okay, let's focus on what you think, Mr. and Mrs. Sales Leader, moves the dial for revenue, and I'm going to focus my program. So yes, I have to do 20% of content creation, whatever the case might be, but that most of my energy and time is spent on sales cycle or win ratio or whatever the thing is that sales leaders say, we got to get this better from a lagging metric, because sales leaders can very easily say our discovery call sucks and that's what we need to work on. And you need to ask the question of, are you sure that's the prioritized problem that will move the dial of revenue? Because if it is, let's do it. But if it's not, you need to be that voice of saying, I'm here to help the team win and succeed, even if that means I have to push back on your request by saying, is this the most important, impactful problem for me to work on right now? So I think it's being willing to stand up for yourself and saying, I'm here to make a difference, and I got to hold that line and make sure that people agree with that, because I would hope most leaders would be okay with that.
Yeah.
So it's a mindset shift. 2 would be, with AI specifically, is it's really easy to be overwhelmed with AI technology of what's possible. So I always tell people, like, start with one of the 3 or 4 big ones, ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, and start asking yourself the question, I wonder if I could do this with AI. I wonder if, because all the cool things I've ever created with AI started with that question. Of me saying, I wonder if I could create a competency model with AI, and I can.
Yeah.
But it took me time to figure it out. I was like, no, that's not gonna work. It's called prompt engineering for a reason. It's not called. It takes engineering.
It's not easy. Yeah.
It's not easy. But at the same time, it's like the more you ask that question and let yourself have some playtime to really figure out, okay, what am I trying to get to? How can I get this out of the tool? It saves you time as an enablement to make sure you're doing the activities you need to do to make the difference you need to have on the
100%. 100%.
So I don't know if that's actual because I like more practical things, and I hope that's practical enough. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think it is. I think because again, what I hear you talking about is like there's a very tangible tactical thing you can do, but we also need to sometimes shift our mindset around things. Because I've worked myself and with other organizations, I'm sure you have too, where enablement is kind of stuck, right or wrong, right? I'm careful normally with my words, but sometimes enablement is like, hey, we just need you to create content, and they become content jockeys versus, like you were saying, is a true partner and allowed to be a true partner on moving that particular revenue needle. So
yeah,
I think it's both.
It's difficult because every team has different, again, expectations where you're at, but it's anyone listening to this who doesn't feel like they're the AI, I don't want to say expert, an AI nerd like me. If you're an enablement and you don't feel like you're an AI nerd where you just geek out on this, you just love this kind of stuff, become that person, because this, to me, AI is the way that enablement becomes a must-have function in the org, because AI is not going anywhere.
No.
And it is the tool we can reduce the friction the best. So the more you're able to understand this kind of stuff, whether you use the academy or go online to all the free materials there, dedicate time to become that person, because you'll become insanely valuable and relevant as you move forward, and not just a content creator that does decks that will soon be replaced by an AI tool.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I love that. And thank you for calling out your go-to-market AI Academy as well. So yeah, so Coach K, where should people find you? What should they do next?
Well, I obviously on LinkedIn. I'm all over LinkedIn, so please come hang out. Happy to help. There's a ton of free resources in the academy, so please don't feel like there's only other stuff. I have like 5 or 6 different free resources. And then besides that, just hit me up anytime. I'm hopefully very approachable, so if you need anything, just come tell me, and I'm happy to help.
Yeah, I can vouch for that for sure. So everybody, make sure you're reaching out to Coach K. Follow his different podcasts. There's so many good things out there. And again, start with folks and sources that are reputable, that have been there, done that. Again, that's the whole point and purpose of the show. It's easy to follow folks, but we want to make sure we're not running 100 miles quickly in the wrong direction. So Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to have Coach K back on our Workout Wednesday show. We're going to be doing that in June or July. So stay tuned for that. You can actually take a look at Momentum for those of you that are in the enablement space. We absolutely are here to equip you and empower you with all those tools. So in the meantime, make sure you're following Momentum, you're following Coach K, you're looking at the Academy, you're following his podcast, and we'll make sure we put all those links in our follow-up notes as well. All right, everybody. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, dear. Appreciate you.
You bet.